June 2nd, 1875 is a most important day in the annals of the telephone, for on that day, guided by the light of his own wonderful theory, Bell found the road leading to the realization of his speaking telephone idea. On that afternoon, his harmonic telegraph was working worse than usual. One of the steel reeds in my room stopped vibrating, and as I snapped it several times to start it going thus, Bell came rushing from the other room in great excitement and told me he had heard in the instrument at his ear the actual sound of the spring I had snapped. It was the first real sound that had ever been transmitted to the human ear by electricity, and Bell was sure that the same mechanism could also transmit speech. After successfully repeating the experiment by vibrating over a magnet all the different steel springs we could find, Bell sketched for me before we parted that same night the first electric speaking telephone, beseeching me to have it ready to try the next evening if possible. Following his directions, I constructed the first speaking telephone and had it ready for trial on the evening of the next day, June 3rd, 1875. Here is an exact duplicate of that first telephone. It has one of the telegraph receiving instruments set in a frame with the free end of the reed attached to the center of a drumhead and an opening to talk into. Bell's idea was to force the reed to follow the voice vibrations instead of merely swinging to and fro. When we tried it, I could hear the sound of Bell's voice and could almost understand some of his words. But my voice was not then strong enough to make him hear a sound. He was disappointed, but was sure he was on the right track. Although many experiments on the telephone immediately followed, it was not until March 10th, 1876, that the telephone transmitted its first complete sentence, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you."
Good afternoon, Mr. Watson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Watson.
There it is. That is, I think, just as you wanted me to make it.
Yes, that is right. Diaphragm, platinum rod, cup, glue for regulating the immersion. That is all right. Now to connect it in. This ought to bring us a step nearer our goal. But if it is a failure, we shall nonetheless have advanced a step. We shall know that it is not right. But I am confident this will prove to be a little better than anything we have done before.
We are ready.
So here is the receiver, now to test it. Mr. Watson, come here. I want you.
Mr. Bell, I heard every word you said. Distinct.
What? Every word?
Yes, sir, I heard every word.
That is splendid. Now you sit down and do the speaking, and let me hear.
How do you do, Mr. Bell? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Bell?
It is better than I had dared to hope. Yes, I heard every word. I could recognize even the quality of your voice. It is a practical thing at last. It will be a success, Mr. Watson, beyond any question.
Professor Bell, I am delighted to see you again. And how are the deaf mutes of Boston?
Very well, I thank you, Your Majesty. And my exhibit was to have been the next thing on the program.
What? Have you invented something?
Yes. This is an apparatus for talking over a telegraph wire.
Well, then, we must see that without fail. Where is it?
Wait, Your Majesty. It is up this way. There, Your Majesty. Will you please hold this up to your ear? Hold it perfectly straight, up and down. No, like this. There, that is right. And I shall go to the other end of this wire and talk to you. I shall use another instrument exactly like this one.
You want me to keep this to my ear? Like this?
Yes, Your Majesty, and I will talk to you. I will recite for you some lines from Shakespeare's Hamlet.
It talks. It does talk. It is remarkable. Wonderful. I congratulate you most heartily. This invention of yours, Mr. Bell, will bring the conscience of the world nearer to each other.
What yesterday I should have declared impossible, I have today seen realized. It is the most wonderful thing I've seen in America.
It is the greatest marvel achieved by the telegraph. I remember your telling me about your idea in Washington, not much more than a year ago.
I can't tell you how much you encouraged me at that time, Professor Henry. When I said I had not the electrical knowledge necessary to overcome the difficulties in my path, you told me to get it. Those two words gave me the determination to go ahead.
What you say is the greatest reward the scientist can have. This invention is yet in its infancy, and is susceptible of great improvement. It has a great future.
On that day, though separated by the continent, Bell and I talked to each other. I recognized the familiar tones of his voice and understood without difficulty every word he said. Then, using a reproduction of the first telephone, he again sent me the words of that now historic first sentence, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want you." Here is the wire through which 50 years ago came this first message to me from Dr. Bell. It is a priceless relic, for it is the first telephone line. During the ceremonies of the dedication in 1915, it was made a part of the great transcontinental circuit, so that after many years it again carried to me the thrill of that first message. Then my mind went back to the memorable 10th of March, 1876, when I heard Bell speak this first sentence ever transmitted by electricity. Now, I heard these first words again, and fate decreed they should be the last he ever spoke to me. Alexander Graham Bell has passed away, but his successors shall carry forward to still greater triumphs the work that he began, and as long as man exists, the art which Bell created shall endure. Thank you.